We just got the newest game in the Zelda franchise last week with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Like the Hyrule Warriors games before it lets us explore the world of The Legend of Zelda with wildly different gameplay. But there's one difference, it's canon. In the past, Hyrule Warriors has strictly been non-canon, but this time it is. So why is that such a big deal? What can it tell us about Zelda games going forward, and how might it inform the future of Nintendo's spin-offs as we know it? Before we talk about Age of Imprisonment and what it means for the franchise, I quickly want to discuss the other two entries in the Hyrule Warriors sub-franchise. After all, if being canon is a big shift, we need to understand what they've done in the past. In 2014, Hyrule Warriors was released for the Wii U. It tells the story of the sorceress Sia, who develops a romantic fixation on our beloved hero Link. Fair enough, you're not the only one. But Ganondorf is able to exploit and corrupt her emotions, turning her into an antagonistic force that opens the Gate of Souls. This lets her summon monsters from Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword to wreak havoc across Hyrule. Link, Zelda, and Impa are then forced to work together and summon plenty of heroes from across the series' lore like Midna, Fi, and lots more. And Eiji Aonuma explicitly said that this isn't a canon story. I mean, it's kind of obvious, it would be hard to fit all of that in. It's a side story in its own isolated universe that just lets the devs have fun with fan service and smashing all their toys together on one board. And then there was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Set in the Breath of the Wild universe, at the climax of the Great Calamity, Hyrule's in chaos, the Guardians are taking over, and Zelda's making her last stand. And suddenly a time portal opens up, taking us into an alternate universe. Link, Zelda, and the champions are aware of the calamity that's about to take over the realm, and they work to stop it, in their own isolated universe. And to be clear, this, again, is obviously not canon. It's a time travel story with a Breath of the Wild coat of paint on it, but the game's story has no bearing on the lore we see in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And to be clear, neither of those things are really bad. Hyrule Warriors in particular is one I don't have a problem with. It was a fun opportunity for them to try something new. Aonuma likened it to the Avengers, and I totally get that. It's the Zelda franchise's take on the Mario Karts or Smash Bros of the world. And Age of Calamity wasn't bad, it wasn't a failure, the game itself is pretty awesome. But it is a total cop-out. The game could have been an incredible prequel to a story we all love, giving us the opportunity to experience the world and lore of Breath of the Wild in a way that's completely unique to the spin-off title. But instead, we got a time travel story that's more akin to an episode of Marvel's What If than an actual contribution to the franchise lore. And the explanation is just convenience. Breath of the Wild is not only extremely popular, but just beloved. Everyone was psyched to get back into the world of Breath of the Wild, and Nintendo wanted to capitalize on it. But instead of delicately maneuvering around pre-existing lore and adding to it in a way that might get fans upset or put them under increased scrutiny, they just put it in an alternate universe. This just made the story kind of boring. There were absolutely no stakes. We got to play in what felt like the world of Breath of the Wild, but we weren't, not really. Ultimately, we were just playing through a side story that didn't mean much of anything, so that Nintendo could get all of the aura of Breath of the Wild with none of the baggage. So let's talk about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I know it sounds crazy these days, but Nintendo listened. Clearly, it is canon. And that's a win for everyone. Just like Age of Calamity took place during the Great Calamity, the overarching inciting event of Breath of the Wild, this game takes place during the Imprisoning War, the overarching inciting event of Tears of the Kingdom. These are both events that we only see through brief cutscenes and flashbacks in the games and would love the opportunity to experience in greater detail. But this time, it's actually the Imprisoning War. It's actually what Zelda went through when she teleported back in time and met King Rauru and Queen Sonia. It's actually the struggle against Ganondorf that we heard so much about in the game but didn't really get to see. We get to play through it, and that's awesome. First, it's obviously a win for the fans of Zelda games. It's no secret that a large portion of the community really cares about the lore of these games, putting together timeline after timeline even despite Nintendo seeming determined to make it impossible. And this game does exactly what we've been waiting for, it gives us answers. For all of the fans that were fascinated by the lore of Tears of the Kingdom and just wish we got to see it in greater detail, here you go. It's not a what if, it matters. It's the lore we have craved. And from Nintendo's perspective, it just makes a lot of sense. The Nintendo Switch 2 only came out a few months ago, and they're rapidly working to ensure that the console is actually worth buying. And if you want your console to be worth buying, you need to make sure it has games. And if you want games, what better franchise than The Legend of Zelda? We can get an entry in the Zelda franchise without having to wait 5+ years, and this time it has real stakes. It's still a spin-off, but it matters. It's a direct contribution to the Zelda franchise in a way other Hyrule Warriors games weren't. Overall, Age of Imprisonment is a success. It takes what was already a cool Nintendo sub-franchise and gives it stakes and implications that extend far beyond any individual game. It gives us a new perspective on one of the Nintendo Switch's most beloved games and adds to it. Because Age of Imprisonment exists, Tears of the Kingdom is a better game. As with any spin-off like this, it's not always all good. When you make a spin-off, you run the risk of making your franchise pay to understand. Look at Kingdom Hearts. To understand the setup of Kingdom Hearts 2, you needed to play Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance. To understand the setup for Kingdom Hearts 3, you needed to play Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance on the Nintendo 3DS. And for that franchise, that's just scratching the surface. Another example, look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. To understand the Marvels, for example, you needed to watch Captain Marvel, WandaVision, and Miss Marvel. When things get too complicated, the fans suffer and lose interest. Nintendo may be providing additional Zelda lore, but they're doing so at a full $70 price tag, and that runs the risk of cheapening the franchise as a whole. But I think this is a different beast. Tears of the Kingdom, the only game Age of Imprisonment's lore will affect in any way, is already out. We're not relying on it to explain the next entry in the franchise, it's merely adding additional context to a game that already exists. If the new canon lore is bad, it'll hurt Tears of the Kingdom's lore retroactively, but it won't make it feel like we suddenly have to buy 100 different games just to know what's going on. Age of Imprisonment represents an exciting change within Nintendo. What they're doing with this game, it's a smart play. It's taking a sub-franchise and shaping it in a way that's perfectly in line with the expectations and desires of the fans. And I think it could be a sign of a shift in Nintendo's strategy when it comes to spin-offs. Traditionally, Nintendo spin-offs have not at all been concerned with being canon. You have Mario sports games, though it's debatable what canon means in the Mario franchise at all, Pokken Tournament, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario + Rabbids, Cadence of Hyrule, Super Smash Bros., games that are obviously not at all related to the stories being told in their mainline franchise counterparts. But recently, we're seeing that start to change. I just talked about Age of Imprisonment, but Game Freak is doing that too with the Pokemon Legends subseries. It's not as cut and dry as a spin-off as something like Hyrule Warriors is, but it is still distinct from the core dual-release Pokemon games. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed is another sort of strange example. It is a DLC expansion, but it's also standalone, and it tells a new but essential story relevant to all 3 entries in the Xenoblade franchise. So this is their new playbook. Spin-off franchise entries that were once independent and skippable like Age of Calamity are slowly being phased out in favor of meaningful canon games that directly contribute to their franchises. Nintendo has decided to make their spin-offs matter. But I want to turn the discussion over to you. Are you enjoying Age of Imprisonment so far? Does it constructively add to the franchise's story, or would you have preferred it to have stayed separate? I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, it would mean so much if you subscribe. It only takes a second and it makes a huge difference. Also, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I kinda can't believe it. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.